got our podcast, thinking you should watch it. If you driving, man, it's good for you to listen. No, we keep it real, no, we spit it raw. Sports dialogue, know it's good if I'm involved. No, we're not the news, we just cool dudes with nobody to impress. Just talking our shit, call it pressman coverage. Pressman coverage.
Welcome into the Psych Ward. No, welcome into Pressman Coverage, a podcast about the Tennessee Titans. And last week I said why we slaw, but this year I'm saying that why we back, baby. We back in this mother trucker, man. They can't stop us.
Hey, come on now.
Hey, I don't know. I had to let that out. We in the Psych Ward. We got to get a little bit crazy today with my main man, Cody. How you feeling?
Man, you bringing the energy today. I'm feeling real good, you know. I know we're going to talk about Cam Ward. He went to Miami, but, you know, hey, the Gators got a big Elite 8 game tonight.
Oh,
so, you know, I got to represent a little bit.
A little bit is right. Randall, how you feeling, baby?
Man, I'm good, bro. I'm good, man. We back. You know what I'm saying? We back for episode 2, baby. We here. You know what I mean? The vibes is right. The energy is right, man. We ready to get to some of this information, man. What we doing?
Man, let's talk about Mr. Psych Ward himself, Cam Ward, and really his effects on the Tennessee Titans. You know, I want to see and kind of look at some of the numbers based off ESPN, Pro Football Focus. We'll do a little bit of comparisons. Also dive into how we think, based on the numbers, he's going to affect the current Tennessee Titans that are on the roster. Some of the pass catchers, the 1 or 2 that we have. But I'm excited about it, man. So let's dive into it. So who is Cam Ward? You know, you've got a player who's 6'1" and 5'8". I don't know why they always include that on the drafts.
All the measurables.
All the measurables, you know. But I was lame if I said I was 5'9" and 3/4. Nobody cared, huh? That's crazy. 219, 9-inch hands. Right now, he's a consensus number 1 quarterback, top 10 overall prospect. And his NFL comp is Jordan Love. And his body type comp, which is something different I've learned about, is Tyrod Taylor, which I think is pretty accurate. But learning and kind of hearing about who he is physically in his NFL comp, I want to start there. Cody, let's say he comes in and he's Jordan Love year 1. How do you feel about that? Would you be drafting Jordan Love with the number 1 overall pick? Let's start there.
Man, Jordan Love number 1, that's a lot of upside for sure. I don't know if I could be pleased if I got Jordan Love with the number 1 pick, but we also have Will Levis. So,
William.
Yeah. So it's kind of something you kind of have to take the quarterback, and I get it. And, I mean, Jordan Love puts up good numbers for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Randall? What do you think about that?
Man, I love that. I love it. I think if we get him, man, Jordan Love, I mean, he's had a pretty good career so far. I mean, you know, they had the expectations of like Aaron Rodgers and what he's done. So he has some really big shoes to fill.
Correct.
But for the most part, man, he can get out there and light it up, bro. Like I think he can lead that team there. So if that is a comp, I love that. You know, as far as just, you know, I heard other people kind of trying to compare him to like Tua or what was the other one? Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
Which is okay, but I really like that comp to Jordan Love because Jordan Love can kind of do it all. He's a pocket quarterback. He can kind of move around. Real precise with the ball. Not the strongest arm, but very accurate, very diligent, and he can pick your defense apart. And he can move a little bit when he needs to. You know what I mean? So I love that.
And you know, I like that. It's an interesting style of athleticism that he has. You know, I understand the Jordan Love comp, especially from an athleticism, arm angles perspective more than anything. You know, and the thing I'm trying to evaluate in my head is I wonder what Jordan Love would have looked like right out the gate.
Yeah, because the benefit that Jordan Love got is that he got the 2 years to kind of develop. Going back to like his movement and everything in the pocket, I was kind of watching some of his highlights the other day, and he kind of gave me a little Ben Roethlisberger vibes. Yeah. Of him kind of not moving around like super fast, but he was able to get up out of there. Kind of thing.
It's like chasing a toddler almost.
So he kind of gave me a little Ben Roethlisberger vibes, which isn't a bad thing to me. 6'1" and 5'8", kind of slight.
Yeah.
I think most quarterbacks nowadays are typically about 6'4", unless your name's Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about y'all? What do y'all think about that? Too small?
Man, I guess the thing is when you look at all the elite quarterbacks, what's Patrick Mahomes somewhere between 6'2", 6'3". Mm-hmm. Jordan Love's a taller prospect. Obviously, Josh Allen's huge. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, I would assume, is between 6'2" and 6'3" himself. So he's smaller than your traditional quarterback, but he's also not Bryce Young. You know what I mean?
He's not Bryce
or
Young.
Kyler Murray. He probably weighs the same as Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray just got that compact into a frame that's me, essentially. I think that he's the baseline or the floor of this quarterback size you need to be where you can be successful.
Yeah.
Especially given the Big Ben comp from a pocket movement. He breaks so many tackles in the pocket. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I think that's the piece that makes me a little bit less worried. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it matters that much nowadays because a lot of it's not under center anymore.
Yeah.
It's very much all in the shotgun and everything. Mm-hmm. So I think the size thing really doesn't matter anymore as much as it used to. So I would say, 6'1", 5'8" pretty good. It's not Bryce Young, but it's also, it's not Josh Allen. Yeah. Perfectly right there in the middle. Yeah. I would take it for sure.
Yeah, and, we should be fine with it because Will Levis is about 6'3", and he's jacked. And all he does is jack games all day long. And we'll dive into Will Levis because there's some stuff that's staggering. But does anything about his stature or frame, Randall, kind of push you away from him?
No. And I only say that because the game has evolved so much now in the way that you can kind of construct your offense and how a lot of these athletes are elite with, like, if you have to escape in the pocket, like extending plays, like and I just don't think that's can be a problem. You know what I mean? No. I think there's ways around it, and I trust Callie to be able to scheme things up for his stature of a quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and one of the things that maybe would worry me more than anything, is if you look at Cam Ward's journey. If he was coming out of Washington State, I maybe would have a little bit more pause with that. Like, hey, not necessarily a school that played any bigger opponents. How much can I really gauge level of opponent versus, how your stature affected you? Sure, Miami's not the SEC, but they played against some pretty stout opponents, at least, some of them defensively, not all of them. But, it makes it pretty interesting. And the fact that he had 158 total passing touchdowns over his career. He won the Davey O'Brien Award, the Manning Award, ACC Offensive Player of the Year, Heisman finalist. I mean, He did a whole lot, and the majority of that, we're talking about what he did just in 2024. So if it was just him coming out of Washington State or even Incarnate Word, I probably will be a little bit more worried. But I think it makes sense.
Yeah, his journey getting to Miami is very interesting. Kind of being a 0-star recruit and only getting the Incarnate Word offer, and then slowly progressing up to Washington State and then Miami, and then getting all the accolades. Like all the accolades.
Crazy.
Like he progressively got better. Yeah. And I think that's a good thing for sure. I think that that can only mean good things for the Titans if we were to draft him. That his trajectory only goes up.
Yep.
And gets better with even tougher competition.
Yeah.
Like I want to see a quarterback that continues to elevate. You know what I mean? I think that's a big thing for me, and being able to see him go from a 0-star to a Heisman, finalist.
Crazy.
That shows the tremendous upside and how hard he works and prepares. You know what I mean? And that is what I want in a quarterback. That's how you go from good to great to excellent to champions. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's what I want in a leader of men. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's me.
And the other part of it is he came from a predominantly wing T program. So initially starting off, he was a wing T quarterback. Not a lot of people know that. He averaged 12 pass attempts a game.
Did not know that.
Coming into college. So it was one of those things where he to come from that, and a couple of us went to a high school where we were a wing T system.
Yep.
Understanding the type of quarterback that's successful in that system and the type of quarterback that's successful as a primary out of the shotgun, those are two totally different people. And the fact that he was both and successful at both also is pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, I had no idea about him being just from a wing T offense. That's actually kind of incredible.
Footwork, all of that.
Yeah. And so I think that even speaks more about his, his trajectory just going up. And like Randall was saying, just how hard he works and everything.
Yeah.
His arm talent is there for sure. And ball placement, everything is great. Yeah, I'll take it.
And, to kind of talk about some of the things he did in that transition, looking at last year's stats, looking exactly where he stood. Play action, 75% completion percentage. I'll take it. He had 104 completions, 13 touchdowns with no play action. You pivot over, with play action, you pivot over to no play action. He's 63 completion percentage, which is expected to have a drop off with play action versus no play action. 26 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and had a passer rating, or based on PFF grade, I should say, of 91.8 if no play action, just traditional drop back passing. In the screen game, was all right in the screen game. But 39 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 4,300 yards. That's a heck of a season.
Yeah, he wasn't playing.
That's a heck of a season.
He was doing his thing for sure. I kind of get lost in the numbers, man. Just we were just kind of talking about compared to Will Levis.
Oh my goodness,
and his college stats. And when I look at it, it's just like amazing how crazy it is. And we're kind of talking about like the deep pass and everything. He completed 34 passes over 20 yards. 14 of them for touchdowns. 14 of them for touchdowns.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Like,
Check,
what?
Check.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Give me that.
And mind you, 14 of them were touchdowns and no interceptions.
Yeah. And I would, no picks too. Like, bruh.
That's
only 14 touchdowns.
Insane.
That's nuts. That's nuts. And then you pivot over to medium, and it's still fine there. You have a completion percentage of almost 68%, 11 touchdowns, 5 picks, which I would think the majority of your interceptions are going to come in that medium range.
Yeah.
And then short, 11 touchdowns, no interceptions, 77% completion. And then obviously behind the line of scrimmage when you're throwing the screen game, 93% completion, only 1 interception there. But looking at that, and you mentioned Will Levis, looking at what Will Levis did.
We've been to compare a little bit.
Okay.
We've been to compare the quarterback play we've had.
This is his
junior year.
This is his senior year.
This is his
senior year. So this is what we made our decision on when drafting Mr. William. Cody, just tell me what you see. Tell me what you see right now.
So, just looking at it, deep pass. Let's see here, 16 of 39, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions,
41% completion percentage. Whoa! You go to medium, it's more of the same. 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, only a 59% compared to 68 from Cam. Short, you've got 73 completion percentage, 9 touchdowns. So really. Not really. The bulk of Will Levis's touchdowns came within 10 yards his senior year.
And like the passing grades aren't horrible, but compared to Cam Ward's passing grades, it's like night and day.
That's kind of crazy to think about. First of all, there had to be a lot of red zone touchdowns or something. So to have 9 of your touchdowns and you only had 10 touchdowns otherwise, so you had 19 touchdowns your senior year. I know he was injured a little bit, but to have that be your total passing and 9 of them were 10 yards or less.
Yeah.
Like, dog, come on, man. So comparing prospect to prospect, Randy, what do you think that he's going to bring to us that Will Levis can't or hasn't up to this point?
I think he's going to bring competitive nature, upside. I think the way he's going to go through his progressions, I think he's going to be able to get what Cali was trying to do with Will last year. You know what I'm saying? That just didn't click, like that mental aspect. I think he's going to be a monster in the film room. I think he's going to be able to really digest the offense in what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? They, like we did last episode, and seeing what they put around him to give him enough time. You know what I mean? Comparable O-line play, building the trenches. He's going to really be able to be decisive with the ball. He's going to be able to have just great ball placement and connection with these receivers. I love to see what's going to happen. You know what I mean? When it's all said and done. So, yeah.
And that gives us so much more, than what I would expect. And, one of the things that I like when looking at his stats is what he looked like. Yes, his completion percentage was pretty high down the field. But looking at his passer grades from Pro Football Focus and what that looked like, especially with the deep ball, that's one of the more interesting pieces for me, because all of his passing grades at deep left, deep center, deep right are all above 90. And that tells me that he is, left and center are above 90. Right, got to work on right. But, having 21 completions in the center of the field, 20 yards or more, 8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And the left side of the field, 8 completions deep left, 5 of them went for touchdowns. And then in the deep right, only 5 out of 21, a 23.8 completion percentage deep right down the field, which, is something that's an area of concern. Is that just an area of the field that you can't attack? Is that something you're not seeing things well? That's a stark drop-off from having 64% deep center, which I know it's a greater mass of area, but you've also got 38%, which is a 15-point jump deep left, only 23 completion percentage in the deep right. Looking at those numbers and understanding how accurate he can be down the field, no interceptions on anything 20 yards or more, how does that fit into Brian Callahan's offense?
Well, I think that Brian Callahan, one thing he wanted to do last year, he wanted to hit explosives. He talked about it. And last year we weren't able to hit that many explosives.
No. We got exploded on. Pause.
Pause.
Please, pause. That's my bad.
And it looks like one thing that Cam Ward loves, it looks like he loves a good deep post.
Yes.
8 touchdowns, no picks. So I don't know what will be going on with the right side. Maybe that's just not his go-to.
Yeah.
Maybe his go-to is running the deep post, going to the left a little bit. But yeah, dude, I mean, still 14 touchdowns, no picks. So, I mean, looks like he's pretty calculated with the risks that he takes.
Yeah.
He's not throwing up jump balls or anything.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, I would take that for sure.
And it makes me wonder, too, how he's going to affect Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
And that was something that I wanted to pull is, what he looked like and where he was the most accurate down the field. And when I got a chance to look at Calvin Ridley, this is what jumped out to me. So his top completion percentage or top receiving grade from Pro Football Focus was in the deep center, which is the same as Cam Ward's. And I looked at a lot of the touchdowns, at least going off memory, that Calvin Ridley had. I remember those deep posts were huge for him.
Yep.
And being able to set up the defender, boom, here I am. And in the intermediate, that's where Calvin Ridley really gets down. You've got grades for left, center, and right, respectively, 88, 95, 92. So in the center of the field is where he really shreds you. And that's a place where Cam Ward is also pretty strong. But just seeing the fact that deep center is such a strong point for both really makes me think they're going to tear up things like cover 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being able to split the safeties and fitting right into the schemes that flow within that. And it makes me wonder, do you think, obviously better quarterback play will make Calvin Ridley better, but how much better can he be with a quarterback who excels at some of the things that he does well?
Well, that's the point, is that Cam Ward does exactly what Calvin Ridley likes to do.
Yeah.
So, you mess those things together, it makes you think that's going to make for like a perfect combination. So, you get your number one receiver, the kind of quarterback that he likes, kind of hit the passes that he's good at with the routes that he's good at running. And I think that could do nothing but positives for the offense and to really get Brian Callahan in his bag for sure.
And that's what we need. I think that there were some games, and I won't say games. Let me take a step back. There were some drives where I felt like Callie was calling it. Yeah. He was in a flow. He was in the rhythm. And one or two things would stop it. One of three things. He's always going to be there. the O-line or penalties.
Yeah.
You know, those things. So I would love for it to get to a point. We've improved the O-line. We hope that's not going to be a factor. We've also improved at quarterback with the assumption that we're taking Cam Ward. Penalties, we just hope that under his direction, year 2, it'll be a little bit better, especially how many false starts we had. Hopefully it continues to build on that positive by having an O-line who's improved. There were the penalties on the O-line decrease on that side of the house. So hopefully we can keep Callie in a rhythm of play calling.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that he struggled with last year was when everything's fine and flowing, he's solid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When the offense is flowing, he's kind of able to mentally shift to other things. When the offense isn't flowing, I feel like he spends so much of his time trying to figure out the offense that other things fall to the wayside. You know, did you see anything like that?
Yeah, yes, I did. But I'm also interested to see because Cam Ward was really good in the play action pass too. We still have 2 great backs.
Yeah,
maybe not great backs. We have 2 good backs. With the improved offensive line, I'd be interested to see. The play action passes to get those explosive plays as well. I think that's a great way for the offense to get the explosives that we're looking for.
And maybe it was just me, but I think I overestimated how much of a pass first offense we would be last year. I think that at the end of the day, especially with a rookie quarterback coming in and won essentially last year as well, with how many games Will have played. You want to have a strong run game. You want to be able to lean on your run game, take as much pressure off that rookie or young quarterback in general as you can. And I think that that's a big part of it. I think Tony Pollard is an underrated piece and underrated benefit that Cam Ward is going to be able to reap by having a running back like that who, one, can catch out of the backfield, but 2, can be pretty dynamic overall in what he does when he has the ball in his hands. So, looking at Calvin Ridley, looking at Pollard, and then we'll dive into Chig here in a second. Randall, how do you think that Cam Ward can affect the pieces that we currently have?
Oh, I think it's going to be a lot of, like I said, man, it's just back to elevating the offense, man. I think a lot of times last year we were pretty much close in games.
Yeah.
We were just lacking comparable quarterback play or being able to adjust and improvise with what you have. And I think that's one of Cam's strengths. And so I think everybody elevates to another level. You know what I'm saying? And we'll get into this conversation a little bit later or maybe, post draft, but I would like some more depth behind Pollard, but Pollard ran the ball exceptional last year. He kept us in a lot of games just off of what he was doing with that offensive line that we had.
Yep.
And so I think Chig takes a step up. You know what I'm saying? The other piece is Ridley. Oh my God! And we'll get into that a little bit later too. But everybody elevates. You know what I'm saying? And I think the way that he prepares for the game, we will see a jump in the offense, and we will get to see Callie when he's in a flow and in a rhythm, and not having to draw back because catastrophic things are happening on the drive. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, I think there is like a certain human element to all this too, where if the team trusts that the quarterback can make the play,
yes,
then everybody else is going to be playing a lot more confident.
Yes,
and like they're going to be like wanting to hit their routes harder. They're going to be wanting to block harder and everything. I think there's a human element to all this, where last year, it's kind of like you said. Why? Like, I don't want you to leave me after you just threw a pick 6.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, I don't want this.
I don't even want you here right now.
So, I think, and maybe I even underestimated it a little bit, where how important that having a comparable quarterback.
Yep.
Just to get the entire team flowing.
Yes.
Yeah, and a part of it I'm just kind of thinking of is not only get them to perform better on the field, and mentally kind of have an extra push to get them to play in general.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because there might have been a couple of injuries that were floating out there that were like, yeah, I'm a little bit sore today. I know Williams finna jack the game anyway. I might as well just rest up for next week. I think there's a lot of a factor that goes into that too. But you're right. I think that having somebody you at least believe in, because you look at the Panthers, they weren't really playing for anything last year at a certain point, but when Bryce came back, there was an energy to that team.
Yeah, and when Bryce was playing good.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there was a part where Bryce wasn't playing good, and then they were getting dogged,
walked,
like dogged every game, and then he comes back and he's playing good. It's like, oh crap, like we got something to believe in here.
Yeah.
And so they all the buy-in just goes up.
That's that thing right there that brings the team together is so underrated. You know what I mean? And I mean, they started seeing if we just comp it to like Bryce Young, like when he started coming back and he developed, within the season, that little break that he had to sit back, you know what I mean? Man, they started calling him the Reaper because he was just walking these teams down, bro. Like, he was just walking them down. You had guys that, late round gems like Jalen Coker and, he had a veteran that could help him, you know what I'm saying? And Thielen.
Yep.
Like, it just started coming, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm excited for with Cam Ward, you know what I mean? Having really – he can be a leader, but if the energy is gone,
he's gone.
He's gone. You know what I mean? And it's just, I'm going to do me. You know what I mean? You could tell just through the season how he was getting frustrated with certain
things.
things.
First 5 weeks when he had like 10 targets and, they're asking him, how you feeling about the game? Well, I don't know what they got going on.
Can't even give
How
him
many
the ball.
targets did I get in the first half?
Right. Yeah. What do you expect? I get it. Yeah. I get no, and that's big. And, one of the things that I was thinking about earlier is Cam Ward really didn't have an outside threat, no disrespect to Isaiah Horton, Nashville product, my guy.
Yeah.
But he didn't have an outside threat that posed a challenge to the defense like a Ridley does in the NFL. Ridley's known to be one of the best route runners. We were all looking at some film earlier where Ridley just was routing folks.
Yes.
Even last year. But he had a strong slot receiver and a tight end who knew he can get the ball to and make plays. And the slot receiver conversation is a conversation that I think we've got to really pay more attention to, whether they go get Restrepo or they go get a dynamic guy.
Did you marry DK?
Talk that, Cody.
I'm not frozen. I'm just done. I'm just done. No, but if we can get a slot receiver, that's dynamic, I think that's really going to help him because I want to put pieces around him that he's comfortable with. Tyler Boyd was cool. He was fine.
Yeah.
But I want somebody who's dynamic, whether it's Elijah Moore, getting him, slotting him in, Tyler Lockett, somebody who we can depend on in the middle of the field. Because as I was looking at his stats with Chigakonkwo, it was something that was like, oh, okay, well, maybe there is something there. Because the short targets, the short center of the field is where Chig lived. It was the most targets that Chig had, which was 22. And it was Chig's highest grade area at a 94.8 in that area. And when you look at what Cam Ward did short center, he had over 100 attempts in the short center of the field. That was where he spent the majority of his time, was in the short center, just making sure that, hey, this part of the field, challenging linebackers all day long. He had almost an 80% completion percentage. 86 completions, 109 targets, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception in the middle of the field right there. I think that's going to be a spot where he's really able to utilize a slot wide receiver, which I think is where a bunch of those targets came from, being from Restrepo coming across the middle and the tight end. So I think that if we can really get a slot that can affect the game, or even draft another tight end and or let Chig actually be a receiving tight end this year, I think that we can really see the offense open up a little bit more.
Yeah, one thing about Chig, man, it's like the athlete is there.
It is.
Yep.
The athlete is there. We just got to unlock him somehow.
Somehow.
Because I remember 2-3 years ago, he's playing the Chiefs, first play of the game, 75 yards down the field. I mean, he eventually got caught or whatever, but I mean, he can still do that. He had a big touchdown against the Texans last year.
He did, like 60 yards.
So he needs to be unlocked for sure.
Yeah.
I think, and again, this kind of matches up to like what Chick can do compared to what Cam Ward is good at as well.
Yep.
So I mean that's mixing them together and like having something really good go together. I think that's great to unlock Chig because right now it's Calvin Ridley, Chig. And, probably the third best receiver may be Tajay Spears.
Might be Tajay Spears.
It may be Tajay Spears.
But, like you said, you're not going to disrespect Traylon Burks. Everybody knows about Big TB, baby. Big TB.
Shout out TB.
His helmet's just like mine in the back. Yeah. His helmet's just like mine in the back.
And clean, too.
Not
clean.
worn.
No dirt on it.
No games.
No scuffs.
Mr. Guardian Cap himself. No, but seriously, Tajay Spears may be our best receiver, third best receiver, on the roster right now. Because Van Jefferson, cool. I know he's another Nashville product. I'm going to get jumped. I keep talking about
he's also a Gator.
Okay. Also a Gator. Okay. All right. Goodness gracious. What did Cam Ward do to the Gators last year? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But no, so I want to kind of look at something real quick and just talk about his strengths overall, Cam Ward, because, we've talked about the percentages and so forth, but just generally, I know this is something everybody's seen, but one of the things I love is that his strength from basically every evaluator is he can read the full length of the field. There's not a part of the field where he struggles to make reads. There's a lot of quarterbacks where the deep ball, like Will Levis, I feel like he made solid decisions and he had decent ball placement with the deep ball the majority of the time. But the intermediate to short kind of got scary sometimes. How many pick sixes did we see in the short because he didn't read the cornerback sitting on? Oh, man. Like this, the Bears, it's just that's just what he does. And one thing I love is the eye manipulation under pressure. That's something that I feel like we haven't had in a quarterback in so long because Tannehill was a see it and rip it guy. And that's totally fine. But, having that manipulation of you understanding the defense so well that, if I'm looking here, you're going to start leaning. I'm coming back firing it another way.
Yep. Just get that safety moving.
Yes. And I love that. What are some of the strengths that you lean on, Cody, when you think about Cam Ward?
Man, I love I like the eye manipulation for sure, but it's also great to have the full field reads.
Yeah.
We don't have to cut the field in half.
Yeah.
We got to cut the field in half. And just be able to make the off-platform throws. That's the league today.
Yeah.
You got to be able to be on the move. You got to be able to do stuff with your arm, pause. And
that's crazy.
That's crazy.
You got to be able to do things with your arm because it's just, you got to make all these side throws and everything. Yep. So he has all the talent. We know that for sure. But yeah, those are some of the most important things to me for sure.
And looking at his strengths, they talk about the velocity that he has when he's throwing off platform and that the ball still gets there. And then also he improvs so well.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into one of his weaknesses as well. And so I'll kind of get your thoughts on this. When it comes to improvisation, that word almost took me out, big dog. But when it comes to that, what are some of the things that you maybe worry about when it comes to that improvisation? Do you think that it's something that can hinder him at times, or do you see it as just something that's a positive and you just kind of take the good with the bad, but the goods are going to outweigh the bad in his situation?
Hell of a question. I think it's pros and cons to that. You know what I mean? And it all comes down to when the play breaks down, like what does Cam Ward see? And is he in sync with his teammates? I can't tell you how many times Patrick Mahomes is probably out there doing stuff that the coach has not talked about. You know what I mean? But Kelsey is just in lockstep with him. Like he knows, hey, if Mahomes is drifting this way, I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna sit down or whatever. So like, it just depends on the camaraderie that he has with his teammates. Yeah. If Ridley knows Cam's gonna do this, okay, then it can work. But if it doesn't, then he has to have that discernment of when to dirt it. You know what I'm saying? When to just next play, like holding on to the ball too long.
Not be falling over and flipping it.
Yeah. Or the opposite of that, when he came back from his break, he being Will Levis, he was like a shell of himself, like everything's a check down. You know what I mean? So having the ability to do both. I'm sorry to cut you off, Randall. Go ahead.
No. You're spot on because, like, you can't get too scared in those moments where everything becomes a check down, but you also know when, hey, this play is dead. You know what I mean? Let's get out of there. Let's get to the next play. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's exactly it, is being able to have the ability to just let's just survive to the next play.
Yeah.
I think that became the motto of every play, unfortunately, for Will by the end of the season was like, okay, this play, just don't do something, like you said, catastrophic. And that was the word that Callahan used a bunch in press conferences, catastrophic.
Yep.
So, just get us to the next play. You can improv as much as you like, hopefully within the scheme of the offense as much as you can. But I also think that, it'll be something that Brian Callahan will have to continue to shift, because looking at where we were coming in, Vrabel and then to Callahan, we've shifted to more of a pass-first philosophy. I think a lot of our runs that used to be Derrick Henry became screens. And I want to see how much of that is just natural philosophy of what he likes to do, getting the ball in playmakers' hands on the outside and letting them go, or if it was just trusting the quarterback. Then on the other side of it, I would love to see kind of what our identity is going to be. Because as you mentioned on last week's episode, I don't know what our identity is. And with a quarterback who can be dynamic with his legs, how does that shift the philosophy? And how does that change as far as our offensive production? Last year, we were ranked 27th in points per game at 18.3. Total yards per game, 26th, 304. Passing yards per game, less than 200 at 26th. Also looking at tied for 19th in rushing yards per game, which was fine. We're over 100 yards a game. And a lot of that was because Pollard doing his thing, 1,000-yard rusher essentially. But looking at that and understanding where we were last year, and this is kind of a foreshadowing thing I'd like you guys to think about, but where do you think realistically we can expect? Let's say he comes in and he has the rookie season that Jordan Love had when he actually played. I know his rookie season wasn't a real rookie season, but let's say he comes in and he has that, and I don't have those numbers in front of me. Let's just assume that they're 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, about an average starting quarterback season. What do you think that will do to our overall production?
Well, it would go up for sure. I mean, 18 points per game. Yeah. To me, I thought it was going to be lower because, it always feels like the Titans, 17 is the number.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we scored 21.
Man.
We about threw a party.
Hey, we did.
Let alone 30.
The group chat was popping.
Man, when Callahan had us put up 30, I was like, oh, we've got our own Kyle Shanahan.
I said, man, we were back.
I was in there tripping in the group chat, dog. I'm tripping. I was drunk.
I don't know. I saw 18 points. I was like, that seemed high. But
it does feel high.
Yeah, but 29 touchdowns, 14 picks. All the ranks. You assume that all the ranks would go up.
Yeah.
Talking about the Brian Callahan philosophy and wanting to be pass first and everything. I would love that. He also had Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow.
That's definitely true.
True. Treylon Burks.
Hey. We're not gonna disrespect big dog. Big dog.
Hey, salute him again, Cody.
Treylon Burks.
Yes, sir. 450 yards in 5 seasons combined. No, but I agree though. I think that we're gonna be at a spot here soon where we're gonna find out, exactly where we end up. We ranked dead last in turnover differential at -17. And then you look at the sacks allowed, 52 over second to last, 31st. Well, there's 32 teams. Yeah, 31st. So who was worse than us? Lord have mercy. At 52 sacks allowed on the season. Hopefully, and looking at the difference between the sacks that Will Levis took versus Mason Rudolph, gives me a little bit of hope that number may not be cut in half, but can make a significant difference with quarterback play alone, and then flip it to a better O-line plus better quarterback play and pocket presence. Really, really excites me. And it really puts me in one boat. And it's an interesting place to be because I think I was the first person to bring up Abdul Carter in our Titans group chat. I am and was a big Abdul Carter fan. And I'm not saying that I think Cam Moore is going to be a top 5 quarterback in his first 2 or 3 years. I think within his first 2 or 3 years, he can be in that top 15. And even that alone is something we haven't had consistently. And to have that in a young prospect is something that really excites me because now we can eliminate the biggest and most important position on the field being our biggest hindrance at the same time. So that is what's officially put me in the psych ward. And I don't care if you say I'm taking crazy pills. I don't care what you think about. I am totally fine with taking Cam Ward with the number one overall pick. I understand that we need draft capital. Man, what is going on? But I firmly believe that Cam Ward should be the number one pick. Again, I'm not just over the top in love with the prospect, but I think that the changes that we need and getting a new young quarterback signifies a few things, but the biggest thing for me is it signifies hope, at least.
Yeah.
We have been a hopeless franchise for far too long, and dog, I need it.
Yeah.
I need it, man. I need that they say hope is the strongest drug you can give somebody, and man, I need it because right now, Lord, Lord, I'm looking to the heavens. They say look to the hills from with coming to your help. Well, we need help now, dog. I'm struggling, man. So I can say I'm officially on and in the psych ward. I'll ask you two. I know we've had some conversations. What do you feel about Cam Ward? And if he's the pick at number one, are you cussing in the group chat or are you clapping in the group chat?
Yeah. So I still sit in the fact that I would, if possible, I would trade it down. I would trade down the pick besides taking Cam Ward. If there's no chance of, the trade, and, they were talking about the Titans won 3 first-round picks. If you get 3 first-round picks,
you got to go, buddy. You got to go.
Trade that away.
You got to go. I'd trade my wife for 3 first-round picks.
Bianca, he doesn't mean.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Edit that out. If you don't mind, edit that out. Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know.
He was in the site.
If anybody has an extra couch, please shoot me a message. No, go ahead.
But so I still prefer trade down.
That's fair.
For the right trade. If we stick and pick, I think I've kind of and believe me, we have done a lot of sunshine popping of Cam Ward, a lot.
We have.
To the point where I'm just like, now I'm starting to buy in completely. But
we
if
here,
stick
baby.
and pick, I want Cam Ward too. And really, you said something last week or our last pod where you said that you want to take away the detractor of Will Levis on if this dude Brian Callahan can coach or not.
Yeah.
And I think the jury is still out on if Brian Callahan can still coach or not.
Yeah.
Some would say he doesn't know if the ball's pumped or stuffed. But so if we stick and pick, I'm fully on board with the Cam Ward pick. I do think the talent is there. I do think that he instantly makes us better at the quarterback position. And I think he instantly makes Calvin Ridley, Chig, with a better offensive line and 2 good running backs. I think that makes our offense probably in the top 20. And I think that helps us win more games.
100%, because I'm expecting us to have a top 10 defense. That's my hope. Maybe I got too much hope flowing in my blood right now, but if we can have a healthy Snead plus a couple other pieces, I think you're right. That top 20 offense, top 10 defense puts you in the wild card race traditionally. Now, do I think we're going to be there? All I can do is laugh.
We might, what I'm saying? We might be flirting with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I flirted with a lot of things prior to being married, but I sure didn't get them.
I wouldn't go all that far. This team still has a lot of holes.
I get that, right? And just to challenge back a little bit, I mean, look at our division. You know what I mean? And I'm only speaking from that standpoint. Like
that's fair. That's fair.
Right now, and no, all disrespect to the other teams. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, step on them.
Screw the Colts. Screw the Jags, bro. But honestly, I feel like it's any man's game right now.
It can be.
Any team can. We're all a pile of trash. We can just who's gonna get to the top. You know what I mean? And I think with Cam Ward, that the sky's the limit. You know what I mean? I'm all in. I've done injected it into the veins, bro.
There it is.
I'm there.
Psych Ward.
Yeah, it's you know what I mean. I think we need to take him with the first overall pick. Maybe trade down in the second. Get some weapons around him. Build the rest of the team. And whatever we lacking this year, double up next year. Get it right. You know what I mean? That's just where I'm at with it.
And I think that's a fine place to be. And it'll be interesting to see what we do. If we're dead set on taking them, I think we'll know that. I'm saying we as if we're the GMs. We'll know that after this private workout that was hosted this week and a few other things. Like, hopefully that's something that's known. And knowing that in the back of your head as a GM and as an ownership group, what are you going to put around him now? Now that you know this is the guy, does that make you reach out to an Amari Cooper or Tyler Lockett or somebody to get him somebody else. So we'll see. But I'm excited. I think that, Cam Moore is going to be a big piece to us. I think that it's probably, in my opinion, about an 80% chance that we draft him at this point.
Yeah.
And I hope that's the case. I think he helps change us. But, one thing I did want to say before we close today is thank you to everybody who joined and watched us last week on our opening episode. Over 100 views. I know that this is not the Pat McAfee show where we're getting 1 million views, but for me, that means a ton. Just being a Titans fan, I know more than basically nobody when it comes to the Titans, but Google and Pro Football Focus helps me look smart sometimes. So I just want to say thank you for listening to regular guys like us, who just want to just love the Titans and help track this journey and ride with you guys on this journey to the Super Bowl in 2029. It'll be hosted at the new Titan Stadium.
Yep.
And the Titans will be playing.
I got one more thing.
Talk to me, dog.
I'm not going to let Cam Moore fool me. Like Will Levis fooled me and Marcus Mariota fooled me in their first start. When they start going crazy in the first start and I'm running up and down the stands, saying we got a franchise quarterback. I'm not falling for it this year.
Fair.
He's going to have to prove it to me over at least 2 games.
No, that's completely.
And then
fair.
I'll start talking ignorant again.
You're right. We do need to temper ourselves because I was literally running up and down the stands when he threw those 4 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and he didn't do it again for the rest of his life.
I'm not falling for it again.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. Will, you will never hurt me again. Thank you guys for listening. Welcome to the Psych Ward.
Peace.
Oh, we got our podcast, thinking you should watch it. If you driving, man, it's good for you to listen. No, we keep it real. No, we spit it raw. Sports dialogue, know it's good if I'm involved. No, we're not the news. We just cool dude with nobody to impress. Just talking our shit, call it pressman coverage. 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 Good news, bad news, everything news. Good moves, bad moves, everything moves. So we made a podcast called it Pressman coverage. Made a podcast called it Pressman coverage. Yo. Pressman coverage. Pressman coverage. Pressman coverage. Pressman coverage.